Hi, welcome to Fiberchats. I don't think my guest today really needs an introduction, but if by chance you don't know, I have Stephen West here. Hi, Stephen.
Hi, thanks for
Thank,
having me.
oh,
I might
thank,
not need an introduction, but my little pup needs an introduction. Nobody's
yeah.
met her yet. This is little Stitch. This is Brioche's little sister.
So when did Stitch become a part of your family?
Just last week. She's
Oh my
very
God,
fresh.
that's so exciting.
So fresh that she only has one little sweater. That's not even really a sweater. It's just a bunch of swatches that I made that I sewed together. But it's better than her big brother's hand-me-downs. So
like when you got brioche and now you got Stitch, right? Was that your way of settling down? Because you used to spend years traveling and basically living out of your suitcase and not even having a permanent place where you call residence. Like,
mad.
do you feel like Stephen West is settling down?
Absolutely. And it was like kind of a forceful settling down during the pandemic to not be able to travel and not have festivals to go to. But I always I'm a dog person. I grew up with the black lab and I just was always dreaming of a dog. And I finally am in a place where I can have dogs. And so I was looking like, okay, maybe next year. And I saw my pup's Brioche's little face and I'm like, no, it's now or never. And it was just a matter of time until he had a little sister. So they're definitely keeping me busy, and I'm really soaking in that kind of stay at home, getting a lot of designs done, a lot of projects done, and having a bit of a personal life. Because I love knitting, but like a lot of y'all knitters know, when it becomes your full-time job and your full-time life, it's like just 24/7. So the pups help me take a break. I don't have to sit down and knit for 6 hours straight. You know, I can knit for 3 hours, take a 10-minute break to walk them outside, and then knit for 2 hours and 50 minutes after that. So I still knit a lot, but they make me get a little exercise.
Well, when you named your first puppy Brioche, so I was watching this knit together sort of with you, Labian, Amy, and Nancy Marchand. And Nancy sort of she was asked why she changed into Intarsha now, because she's basically like the queen of brioche, and from what I hear, she teaches you, she taught you brioche, right?
Yeah, she taught me brioche, and she's just one of my best friends here, and just someone I really look up to and just really admire the things that she creates and just who she is as a person. I just love hanging out with her. And so I love the brioche stitch, but brioche is also like in honor of Nancy, my friend.
Well, but she said in that when they asked her why she moved to Intarsha, she sort of said, well, because I'm sick and tired of brioche.
Yeah.
Like, are you ever concerned that when people think about your designs, there is it became that way. It wasn't always that way, but there is certain look, like it's very recognizable. There is you use a lot of new techniques, you use brioche a lot, obviously, you use a lot of colors. Are you ever afraid that you're going to get tired of brioche or colors or any of the particular technique and people associate you just with that?
Yeah, a little bit, because when something when I do something or when anybody does something and people respond to it or make it a lot, I mean, you can't do that over and over and over and over again. And I myself love brioche, and I love fading colors together, and I love slip stitches. But whenever I only do that for a couple months, I get really tired of it. Not enough to never do it again, but I need a break from it. And I need a brioche break after brioching a few projects. So then that's why knitting is so great, because there's all these other techniques that have different moods. And over the years, I've been designing for 12 years. I've kind of stumbled upon these categories that I design in, like marled knitting, faded knitting is really simple garter stitch. Short row knitting is another category that I design and knit with. And they all have these little characteristics that if you tell them to a non-knitter, they're like, it's all knitting, it's all the same. But us knitters know the feeling of brioche and how amazing it feels or how terrible it feels, and you need a break from it. So there's all these kind of feelings, and some are easier or some have a little bit more of a challenge to them. So whenever I'm tired of one, then I do need a break.
Let's go back to April of 2009. So you went on Ravelry and you published your first shawl, Boneyard Shawl. Yeah. And by the way, if you guys don't know, it has over 10,000 project pages for this shawl there. tell me, like, what was in your head that day? How did this whole thing come out? How did you decide that you are a designer? You want to try to become because you were a dancer at the same time. Like, how did you decide to go into the whole, announce to the world that you are a knitwear designer?
Yeah, it was real gradual. Before then, I was a diehard knitter, like loved knitting every day. I had a knitting project with me everywhere I went, during dance class, during all my academic classes in college, and I was addicted. But I didn't ever have the idea of, I'm going to design patterns now. I just started modifying patterns. In that first one, I was just looking at shawls, and it's just a triangular shawl, my first pattern. That's really just a simple recipe. I didn't think of it as a pattern, but the owner of my local yarn shop told me to write it up. So she encouraged me and was a mentor of mine that taught me short rows and magic loop and encouraged me to write that pattern. So it was kind of accidental, or I was kind of nudged into it, but then I loved it, seeing everybody knit and change the borders and do it with different yarns. And that's my favorite part about designing, is that exchange of, I'm doing something and, oh, you're doing the same thing, but you're knitting it in your own style with your own colors. So that's why I kept doing it, was to kind of have that social outlet, because I didn't know too many other knitters in my town where I went to school.
Like, when people look at you now, right, you are probably one of the top designers. Everybody who is a knitter knows you, like they recognize you, they recognize your patterns, they've heard about you. Was that like an immediate success from the get-go? Like, you publish your first shawl and boom, like Stephen West became Stephen West. So what was that process like?
Not right away, but in the first year that I started designing patterns, I really dove into it and just kept on making like one shawl after the other and hats. And one of my first shawls was called Daybreak. And that was one that I was really surprised that so many people knit. And I started going to some yarn shops in the Chicago area and in the Seattle area in my first year of designing. And I was so surprised that when I showed up, like a few of the customers like had that finished project with them. I'm like, what? I just shared this design like a month ago, but that was like, I think my 5th or 6th pattern that a lot of people knit, because it was such a different kind of construction at that time. I mean, now shawls are all kinds of shapes and techniques and colors, but at like 10, or this was like 12, 13 years ago, shawls were like triangles, semicircles, and if you tweaked them a little bit, it was like, whoa, you're really messing with tradition, and that's a shawl. I didn't know you could do that with knitting. And I just had no fear, and I didn't follow design rules. I never took a design class. So I just loved that curiosity of coming up with things. And I knew very little, but I always believed that you just work with what you know and then go from there. And along the way, I've learned so many things, like even how to make a PDF. I remember when I first started designing, I just wrote it out on my computer, and I remember emailing Kirsten Kapoor, is another designer, and I knit a lot of her patterns when I first started, and I remember sending her a Ravelry message, how do you make a PDF? I have this pattern on my computer, and I just, all the basics, I just had to learn as I went, but yeah.
Well, talking about mentors, right? When I was interviewing Stephen B., he jokingly, like, he brought you up about like your use of colors and your freedom of expression and like how fierce you are in your designs and stuff. And he said, yes, but when I met him, he was wearing plaid shirts, you know, like when you think about people that you met along the way, how much do you think they influenced you? How much do you think they shaped you into who you are today?
I think, there's so many people that I've grown up with and went to school, and teachers, and every one of them, because I'm such a passionate person, and how I live my life now is a result of my passions and the talents that I've nurtured and took the time to put interest in. And then you meet similar like-minded people, and all of those people have been like, stepping stones to shape you and become who you are. Like one of my professors when I studied dance, her name is Kirsty, and she was my improvisation professor and teacher. And she was just, we just spoke the same physical language. And she really encouraged me to follow my own path and my own interests. And for me, that meant I didn't finish my first school program, and I worked a lot more with her on just other dance projects. And she was a knitter as well. So we would hang out and knit in the evenings and dance and collaborate on these dance performances. And she told me about this program in Amsterdam for choreography. And I'm just such a passionate, creative, like anything that I can make, I just pour my whole heart into it. I'm very obsessive and compulsive about making things and doing it nonstop. So I soak things up like a sponge. And that includes like advice that I get, or mentors that I'm working with. So she just planted that little seed of an idea, and it was just that one little thing that helped shape my path. And I took it to Amsterdam, and I'm still here.
Talking about dance, right? So a lot of your photo shoots, this is what attracts people on Instagram, like on Ravelry, like you hire these amazing dancers or opera singers or models, and you go right in with them and you sort of doing some improvised dance while with all this wild makeup and stuff. How do you, like when you first, did you decide to combine your passion for dance with your knitting?
Yeah, I started doing it a lot more when I met one of my friends in Amsterdam. Her name is Alexandra Theo. And it was in 2013 when we first started doing a lot of photography together, when it was patterns like Color Craving and Exploration Station. That was right when I started using more bright, vivid, saturated types of colors. And she is another independent artist that loves fashion, and she was a dancer as well, and a photographer and makeup artist. So she was like all of these creative things in one amazing being. And so we started collaborating together and bringing knitwear into it. So that was just a natural ping pong back and forth between each other. Is, ooh, we're working with these colors, and ooh, let's do this makeup to bring that color in the shawl to life. And then I just started moving and using those kind of dancerly moves and poses. And that was kind of a changing point of working with her. But she kind of dragged it out of me and involved the knitting with the dance and the photography, that I kind of still use that kind of spirit to this day.
So majority of people who knitted your things, like very enthusiastic about Mr Anita Longs that you do once a year. So when you come up with the designs for those Mr Anita Longs, how far in advance, like do you start working on it as soon as it goes out, like on the next year's one, or how long does it take you to come up with that specific shawl for Mr Anita Long?
As soon as the last year's knit along is done, like in November when the knit along is done, I'm already thinking about, okay, that was cool, how can I make it better next year? But I always procrastinate. I don't start planning it right then, a year in advance, because that would just stress me out all year, because I put a lot of pressure on myself every year to make it better. So I try to delete the one that just happened from my mind and give myself a break. I work on other things and try to make a little collage of new ideas throughout the year. And then I usually really seriously start thinking about the new mystery knit along in the early summer. So like in May and June, which is like right around the corner. So next month and the month after that, I'm starting to really swatch seriously and commit to certain techniques and commit to the yarn types and kind of the mood. Usually I kind of pick the name first the last few years and then design around that name of the knit along. So the slip stravaganza was a lot of slip stitches, and the shawlography, I knew I wanted to be really improvisational in my design process and mixed the dancing into all the photos and videos for the knit along. But it's kind of like May, June, July, August, and September. So kind of 5 months that I'm really focusing on the MCAL while doing other things, of course. And then once September rolls around, which is the month before it starts, that's like basically all I do all day, every day is, preparing and finishing up the pattern and making the videos before people get everything in October. And I'm scared to add up all the time that I do every year for the MCAL, but I know I knit over 200 hours just coming up with the designs and prototypes and all that. And I don't even want to count up the days and sleepless nights. Like one year I did all the photos and I was up all night editing it and changing my mind. And I go all in. So
why mystery part of it? Like, why did you decide to do Mystery Knit along?
Well, I love the, basically I love forcing people to do things that they wouldn't normally do. So I love like, yeah, learning new things. And I really like being adventurous with knitting and mixing stitches and shapes that aren't normally shown together. And a lot of knitters can be like following the pattern word for word. And the mystery is the time to commit to making something, and you get to be guided through this process of making a shawl. But if you don't like slip stitches, you signed up, you have to do slip stitches. So yeah, this is the big boy. Whoa.
Hi, brioche.
All right, he's so big now in comparison. You want to go down? Whoa. There we go. Yeah, they play together all day.
Well, I know you just published a new book recently, The Painted Shawls.
Yeah.
Are you considering writing a book for dog sweaters?
I would love to. I'm working actually on a little dog sweater for Stitch, because Brioche has some brioche sweaters that are his size, but he's so big in comparison to little Stitch, so she needs some new little ones. So I'm going to turn this into a pattern for sure, but I would love one day to do a dog book. That would be so much fun. But I have to collect other dog sizes. Not for me. I need to borrow them from friends. 2 dogs is the max. 2 arms, 2 dogs. But I would love to do a book for dogs of all sizes, and that would be so fun.
Well, I saw that you created the page on Instagram, especially for Brioche, or Brioche organized the page for himself, including his dog dad, Stephen, there. Yeah. Is he gonna include his sister into that page, or you open the page for her?
Yeah, he just invited his sister into that page. Oh, he was the big boy. And so it's brioche_stitch. And I've been sharing a lot of photos on that page of my dogs. There's not as much knitting, but if you do decide to follow brioche_stitch, there's often photos with like sneak peeks of like knitting in the background of things that aren't released. So I'm more, there's more teasers on that page, I would say, because it's just taking pictures of my dog, and there might be, maybe there's a mystery shawl sneak peek in the background. That would be scary. I don't want to spoil this year's mystery shawl.
We talked a little bit about your yarn collection and my yarn collection, and how we both think that it's a separate hobby from knitting. Collecting yarn is something. Is that how you found yourself being an owner of the Stephen and Penelope? Like, is that you just couldn't run out of yarn, so you just decided to have a store?
That's honestly basically why. Because my friend Malia started the store, and it was called Penelope Craft about 12, 13 years ago here in Amsterdam. And I just went to her store all the time. And then I was knitting with all these different types of yarns, and I wanted to collect more colors. So basically I just ordered a ton of yarn for the shop, for my friend's shop, just because I just wanted to see those colors, and I wanted to collect more yarn. So that's basically what led into me being part of the shop was, I just am a yarn collector, and I'm yarn obsessed at heart. So I consider the shop that we have now, Stephen and Penelope, a stash that I share.
Well, talking about yarn, a lot of times when I interview designers, or I do also a lot of test knitting for designers, and oftentimes it would come in the conversation that like, oh, I wanted to make it bigger, but I'm concerned that it's going to use too many skeins. Meanwhile, you design Schlanket, and like you're going big with your shawls. Like some of your shawls use 5-6 colors in it. Are you ever concerned about the cost of it? Are you ever concerned about like the materials, like how much it's going to cost people? Like when you design something, is that a consideration?
Yeah, I try to vary. I do love Schlankets and really big shawls, but I try to balance it out with like cowls and hats. And I like to have a large range of design types. So I have some like huge blankets that take like 12 to 20 skeins or something, like giant. But I love doing versions, a lot of these versions that have like a more minimalistic version that might be like, for the blankets, you might need like 10 skeins and a few colors, but I love knitting versions that are really scrappy. And I try to show most of my designs with a couple color styles. So you see one that uses these 5 beautiful skeins of yarn, and then I love doing a scrappy version that is like leftovers and using what you have and trading yarn with your friends. So I like designing with that intention in mind, that you don't always have to get brand new yarn for a project, because my favorite things that I've ever made are all the stash busty multicolor types of projects. And like this gray, I got this yarn at the grocery store in Iceland and mixed it with some other yarns that I had. And it's just that idea of recycling and reusing and sharing and trading with your knitting friends. And yeah, those are my favorite kind of multicolor projects.
What attracts you in yarn? Like when you see, like you at, I don't know, Rhinebeck, where I ran into you. So I want to come back to that. But you come to Rhinebeck and there is thousands and thousands of skeins out there. How do you, like, what calls your name? What catches your attention?
Usually it's been like a couple years since I've been to a festival. So I've been knitting with a lot of the same yarns this year. I'm ready for like a spark of new inspiration. Because when I go to festivals, I always want to collect something that I haven't knit with before. So like at Rhinebeck, I remember I got a lot of Cormo because that's not a usual type of wool at a local yarn shop. It's a real specific and springy and soft wool. So I went to all the like kind of farmer booths that spin their own yarn, and I wanted to collect those more unique fibers and hand-dyed styles.
Well, when you at the festival, and like I felt bad for you, like honestly, like I saw, because you are hard to miss. You are a tall guy. You have like bright, interesting clothes. So people see you and they flock to you. And suddenly, like I see you walking with a couple friends, and then boom, there is a line of like 50 people asking you to take pictures.
They're not people. They're just all my other friends. No.
And honestly, like you were super sweet about it, because you would like, okay, want to take a picture? Here, I have a selfie arm. And you were like very accommodating and very like, friendly.
Stick. I'm not hiding. Like if I didn't want that, then I would wear overalls and a mustache and like a hoodie or something and dress like an alpaca farmer. But
well,
like,
you ever tempted to do that when you go to the festival? Do you like ever wish you could just get lost in the crowd and not be recognized and not be stopped all the time?
Yeah, only when like there's this yarn that I want and I don't want to be just like when I'm looking at yarn at a booth, like I need my time and I want to think. And if I like get distracted or talk to someone, then it disrupts my like color choosing process. And I just need to be quicker about choosing colors and be like, yep, I want that yellow Cormo. And it should be easy because I always just get the same color. I love yellow. So I don't know why I'm always choosing and thinking too much in a yarn booth. But yeah, sometimes when it comes to yarn shopping, I wish I was invisible. Like I could have a invisibility sweater or something that I could pick my colors in peace. But that's why you go to festivals, is to meet people. So if I didn't want that, then I would just not go to the festival. So that's one thing.
Do you remember like the very first celebrity moment when you suddenly were recognized as a knitwear designer and you were surprised by that? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember in Chicago. I went to school in Illinois and my mom lived near Chicago. And when I went up from a school break, like a couple years after I designed, just randomly on the subway, I saw somebody's shawl that was one of my designs. That was the first time that ever happened. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's one of my patterns. So I went up to them. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And they're like, thank you. They weren't the knitter. It was just a friend of theirs that gave it to them. So I was this weirdo going like, wow, beautiful scarf. They're like, get away from me, weirdo. This is the subway. Put some headphones on.
I had like very interesting experience recently, because I'm interviewing not only knitters, but I'm interviewing all different kinds of fiber artists. And I was talking to a quilter and I said, oh, tomorrow is so exciting. I'm interviewing Stephen West. And she said, well, who is Stephen West? So are you ever surprised when people don't recognize you? Like, do you expect to be recognized now?
No, I love like, I don't expect it at all. I love it because then it gives me more of a chance to, like, I love talking to other creative people, and I don't like when there's some, I don't know, preconceived idea of who you are or what your style is or this and that. I just like that spontaneous creative exchange. So yeah, I don't expect it. And I love like getting to talk and knit and go to like any other shop and talk about creative stuff and have that not be like a thing, or most people don't even care. But yeah, I don't like that there was some like, yeah, people would treat you differently because they think of something before they even know you or something like that.
Well, when I was interviewing some of my former guests, they sort of said that like people like Stephen or like Andrea Mari, they're like gatekeepers of like Ravelry, right? Like there is almost no way to beat that level of popularity, to beat that level of recognition. It's hard for new designers to like get into the market and to promote themselves because there is like icons like you. Do you see yourself as a gatekeeper? Because like one of the first people I interviewed was Julie Knits in Paris. And I asked her, Julie, like, how did you start? And she said, well, it's a funny story because I was interpreting for Stephen West in Paris. And he said, Julie, you're such a wonderful knitter. Why won't you design? And I was like, no, like, I don't know how. And then I thought about it and I designed my first shawl, and Stephen went and he modeled it for me and he helped me to promote it. And that's how I started. So like, I hear a lot of stories about you like that, when you actually go out of the way to help somebody who is not even a designer to become designer. And you always like encourage people to try their creativity, try their own colors, to show like what they can do with your stuff. Even where do you see yourself? Like, where do you see yourself, gatekeeper versus the promoter?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I don't think of myself as a gatekeeper, but I'm very aware these last several years, because I've done so many designs now. And when I started, I was like, didn't know much, and I really figured things out as I went. And the more you learn and the more you do, you set up kind of a system that works for you. And it is really saturated, and there's so many things, and it's hard to be seen. So one thing I've been like strategically or trying to emphasize more is that more kind of teacher side of my personality, that I really love to teach and share everything that I know. And that's been really hard to do the last couple years because without traveling and going to events and festivals. So I've been making a lot of free YouTube videos and teaching a lot of workshops on my website, with the idea of sharing techniques and teaching technical things. But mostly what I try to convey in all my videos and workshops on my website is just that sense of you can make whatever you want, or there's not so many rules you have to strictly follow by. There's not one way to do things. And so I try to work kind of with that philosophy, with hopes to encourage people, if you just want to follow a pattern, to follow it and modify it and make changes, or if you want to design and do things on your own, to call yourself a designer, even if you haven't designed a pattern, but to take ownership of the things that you can do and to start from there and kind of continue forward with that confidence. So
at some point, you basically you were doing everything by yourself. You were designing by yourself, writing that PDF and like publishing everything, whatever. And then at some point you realize that you just one man show and you can't do it all. And so now you have some people that help you to do things, right? Yeah. Was it difficult for you to relinquish the control, to let other people help you?
Yeah, it takes, not a lot of people know like how much time goes into making a pattern and having it tested and laying it out and getting photos of it and having it edited and all of that. And I quickly realized that if I'm going to do every single thing like properly, like how I wanted to do it and have it be as professional as I wanted to present it, it takes so much time. So I learned to try to let go of some of those things. Like I don't lay out my PDFs anymore. I have someone that helps me, lay out the text so that while that's being done, I can move on to the next creative thing. And that's something that I would kind of encourage other people to do is, do it all in the first, like when you're starting, but try to at one point kind of realize and assess like, what are you strongest at and what are you weakest at? And for me, I was weakest at kind of the more technical things and the communicative things, like, sending out all the test knits and doing all the editing. I used to edit all my own stuff. I'm like, no, someone else needs to look at this pattern because you're looking at it with, you know what's going on in the pattern. So I realized that my strengths were inspiring and creating and actually knitting the pieces. And so I wanted to do as much of that as I could. And then some of the other things like the graphic design of the PDFs, I was like, okay, I can pass this on to a friend and have them help me out so that you have more time to do what you love. And those are the things that are going to fuel you to keep doing it and for it to be more sustainable for yourself. Well, but it took me a while to learn that.
When I test knit for other designers, sometimes there are mistakes, right? Sometimes there is sometimes there's silly mistakes that just takes a little typo, and other times there are mistakes that you need to frog 200 lines and like restart basically again. Are you terrified, like when people find mistakes in your patterns, whether it's your tech editor or testers, do you feel like, oh my, like what's your reaction? Are you like freaking out?
I'm a stress, like I soak in so much stress, even if it's like a little thing where like someone had to tink back a row because it said knit 3 instead of knit 2. And then like whenever I hear that feedback after it's been like tested and tech edited and it like slipped through the cracks, I like, oh my God, because I know like what it feels like to rip out. I hate ripping out. So like I don't want to waste people's time, and I feel real embarrassed when a thing slips through like that. But then we just always try to shift things and try to be more diligent about the time we give testers and editors and all of that to make a pattern error-free. But yeah, it's so stressful. Nobody wants to knit a sweater and rip it out.
What's your approach to testers? Like, how do you pick who tests for you? Like, what makes an ideal test knitter for you?
Yeah, a lot of testers, I have a group of testers. I don't do too many testing calls because then it's a new batch every single time. So I work with mostly the same group of people, and some of them just love knitting, and I just want to work with them to see a sweater in a different size and just a different color style. And then some testers are like really meticulous about spotting errors in that. But for me, that's not why things are tested all the time. It's nice to have some people spot the errors, but mostly I like to, when a pattern comes out, to have inspiration in different styles and a sweater on a different size that's smaller or larger than my sample size, or someone that has a really neutral color style and someone that has a really bright, crazy hand spun color style. So it's for all kinds of different reasons, but I love when a design is released that you see different versions of how you could manipulate the colors or modify it to your own style.
Well, do you ever see like other people knitting your designs and you're like, why didn't I think of those colors?
All the time. That's like almost every single time, because I knit, you have different color styles and color combos, and I'm always in love with that combo, and that's why I knit it. Like I love just green and gray, but then every single pattern I see a sample that's like, oh my gosh, that just really makes the pattern sing more, or it shows off the contrast of the stitches better. And then I just design another shawl with that idea. I just steal that color idea. I call it recycling with inspiration. But that's what's so beautiful is, yeah, you can make something and then get inspired by your friends and what they make and kind of go, ooh, I didn't think of putting green with that purple color, but that really works. So I'm always seeing those combinations and tweaking the color combos that I use. So there's never one project that's exactly the same.
Let's talk about your friends. Who are those people? Like, are you friends with people that you were friends in your childhood? Are you friends with other designers? Do you feel like it's competition? Is it like lonely at the top?
No, I don't think anything of it. I don't think anything of it like that way. Most of my friends that I have here in Amsterdam are mostly through knitting. Like Malia is one of my best friends here who started the shop. And it's just when you do nothing but knitting your whole life, you're going to have knitting friends. So most of my friends are knitters. I have a couple non-knitting friends and now my dogs. So they keep me grounded away from knitting 24/7. But yeah, most of my friends are knitters.
Well, talking about that, like there are people like, when I talked to Olga Jazzy, she was like, she was just visiting you at that time. And she was like, we just sat and we knitted and I was knitting my stuff and Stephen was working on different samples. And she has like this immense respect for how you approach things. And yet like she does something completely different. And then you collaborated together on a shawl that you published together. Like, when you see other designers work, does that give you ideas? Does that inspire you? How do you perceive work of others?
Yeah, when I see other designs come out, there's some gorgeous ones like from Olga. I love her style, but yeah, we think really differently. I think she's definitely more meticulous and engineering about the way she approaches things, and I'm more improvisational and embracing the accidents. And yeah, I don't knit as many prototypes and swatches as she does. But yeah, I see the things she does, and it definitely subconsciously feeds into some of my interests. But I never like to see something and try to replicate it or compare it, because it comes from a completely different place, and they might be more planned out of how they made it or come from some other inspiration. And when I make things, it really has to like I'm really like emotional and physical about creating things. And so it has to come from not an exterior place. Like I don't often look at a visual depiction of something and say, I am going to knit that. I see it and I'm going to knit it. Most of my favorite things that I know I love to invest the time in come from a place of curiosity and casting on with colors. And sometimes I don't even know what I'm making or where it's going. So those are my favorite types of projects, when I'm working with colors and just picking up stitches and doing like modular. I have one of the shawls with me, like all these modular shapes. And then when I'm making it, it could be a cowl or it could be a blanket. And this one turned into a shawl, because almost everything I make turns into a shawl. They can just be any size. It's the most forgiving type of knitting garment, I think. It can be any size, but this I just improvised along the way and didn't look or draw out a pre-planned idea of what it would be. And that's my favorite way of knitting. And it's also kind of scary because you could be knitting something and it might not even work out into a finished pattern. But I've kind of tweaked a way of how I can balance improvisation and making things up as I go, and how I can also at the same time record them into a pattern that other people can follow. And
well, I mean, what blows my mind with your patterns, because you're saying you're not very technical and you're more improvisational. I see that. And I also don't see that, because like, let's take this shawl, for example, right? I mean, that's very technical. And not only that, but the perfection of finishes like always blows my mind with your designs, because like, if you look at all this, like connecting pieces, right? It's like, it's so pristine, it's so exact, it's like, it's very clean. Like you use a lot of I-cords that make it like very beautiful finished look to it. And I feel like this is what I love about your shawl specifically. When you knit it, you sort of, and even when I watch you knit, right? When you knit, you look like such a loose knitter, like the space between the stitches just immense. And then you look at the shawl and it's super even. And when you read the instructions, like the instructions are so clear. Like I never was tripped by the instructions of your pattern. Somehow it's like, it's very clean. It's very obvious, like what you mean, the language. And then every step of the way, like whether it's Mr Anita Longs or your regular pattern, there is some new technique that I learned from every single thing. And also like the way you finish, it's like, it's never the same. It's never, there's no like, it's like, there's so many designers that like, I know that this is their design because they always use that as a finishing edge, or like they always use something in their designs. With you, it's not like very predictable, because it can be German short rows, it can be mosaic stitches. How important it is for you, like when you actually design, like to squeeze in some new technique, to teach in some new tricks?
Yeah, lately I've been doing that more purposefully because I love making these YouTube videos on my channel, and I've been designing more of these Westknits workshops on my website. So I've been designing more things to go along with specific techniques. Like I just designed a shawl with a modular construction where you're picking up pieces and connecting everything as you knit. And I designed it specifically as a teaching tool for this modular workshop. So that was really a precise choice I'm going to make these design choices so that I can teach people short rows and modular attachments and increases and decreases in a fun, color blocked kind of way. And so I've been more precise about that lately. And then I think with all the geometrics in a lot of my designs, like you were mentioning with the edges and stuff, I was just thinking, because that is really different from how I feel. A lot of my designs are really crisp and graphic, but I think that's my way of communicating to people that this emotional sense of improvisation and making things up as you go, this kind of freedom I feel with color and creativity, I want to like portray that to people, but in order to do that, it has to be in a clear, concise, communicative way. So I think that's where kind of the graphics and strong lines come into play. You can see a shawl and go, ooh, I get it. I see the lines. It makes sense. It's not so messy and everything all over the place. Right. So I think that kind of graphic style is my way of, communicating colors and ideas, but giving people that sense of, oh, I can mix these two shapes together And that might be a new concept to some knitters knitting it. But yeah, that idea that you can mix things up and not follow the rules so precisely all the time.
Well, the last Mr Anita Long, you specifically did like videos about like try not to stress about it. Let's say you don't get something. Let's say you're not managing to finish this pattern, like this portion of the knit along before the next clue comes out. Like, don't stress, just enjoy the process. Do you believe in it for yourself? Like, do you ever just enjoy the process, or do you stress over it because you have so much on your plate?
In general, I'm on the side of it's okay. Like if you're missing a couple stitches, I always just sneak them in. Or if like a section isn't the perfect length, I try to avoid ripping out, and I like to fudge it. I'm that type of knitter that, okay, it's a little wonky, I'll just sneak in a couple extra stitches at the edge. That's just what I love to do. It like saves me time on each project, because I'm the type of knitter that makes something so that I can come up with the colors and ideas, but I'm knitting it so that I can finish it and get to the next project and find the next color story that fascinates me. So I don't overanalyze things too much. And I really encourage people to try to embrace that a little bit. If a stitch is off, if you can't see it, it doesn't matter. If anybody notices that little extra yarn over in your shawl, they're standing too close to you. So just take a step back and reassess your choices.
Well, I remember you went to Japan and you came back and you did a sale of your sample shawls. And to me, it was sort of like strange, because I'm thinking of you as a designer who only sells patterns, and suddenly I can put my hands on something made by Stephen Penelope.
Once a year, only like once a year do I do that. I let go some of my babies.
Otherwise, is it difficult for you to price those?
Yeah, it's difficult to price them. That's why I knit patterns. I like to knit one-off things and just sell the ideas and the patterns and inspire other people. I don't like to make things, because it's just hard to price those. The amount of hours that goes into it and just the materials, it's just not worth it, and the time, or they have to be way, way high. So I don't like to get into that side of things of selling them. So when I do, I just, sometimes I don't even think too much. There's just a few things that I want to let go and send out into the world. So I don't price them as a sustainable thing. I sell like maybe 20 or 30 samples a year or something like that. But
you have a concern that the person that's going to buy that shawl is going to study it with the looking glass and find the one stitch that you fudged.
I hope so. That would be amazing. I hope so. And I hope they frame it, like circle the mistake. And we're all human. All of my knits have some imperfection in them. Like maybe a strand wasn't completely pulled through the stitch in my marled knitting, or maybe in the pattern I said it's pick up 36 stitches, but maybe I only picked up 35, and then I snuck in that extra stitch later. But
Do you dream of knitting when you sleep?
Yeah, I have woken up sometimes with, like, it usually happens during the mystery knit along season, because I'm just thinking about the pattern and knitting all day. And so sometimes I'll come up with like an idea of, ooh, that's a great pose to pose with the shawl. And I do dream in knitting sometimes. That's a little embarrassing.
Like, if you thought about like the dream vacation, can you imagine it without bringing knitting along?
I've never done that. I think that could be great to have a little break and relax, maybe go to a beach. That's somewhere I would never go because I burn. So my idea of most people's vacation is go to a beach and sit in the sun and sunbathe. And I would no, I want to bring my knitting, and it would get sand in it. So maybe I wouldn't bring my knitting if I was forced to knit on a beach all the time and it would get all sandy. I would just have to invent some kind of contraption, like some special knitting bag that was sandproof. But I don't think I would ever not take my knitting anywhere. That's
When you look back, right, at your journey, and you think about that kid that moved to Amsterdam and decided to try his hand at designing and selling patterns and all of that, and where you're now, do you feel like, where are you in that journey? Like, do you feel like you don't know what's gonna come next, and like if you have it in you to continue, or do you feel like you're just scratching the surface and you have more ideas to fill the next 100 years?
Yeah, I feel like I'm definitely just scratching the surface of where I'm at now. Whereas when I moved to Amsterdam, I moved here with 2 suitcases, some with clothes, and the other one was just with my shawls and yarn. And that was all I had. I didn't know anybody in Amsterdam. I just moved here to study at the dance school and then met friends along the way, but had this idea of, yeah, anything is possible, anything could happen. I might try this program. I could live somewhere else in the future, maybe. And I'm at a really different place now where I'm just really grateful for all the people I've met and all of the designs and projects that I've come up with. And I'm really at a place now where it's less of that, anything can happen. I could pick up everything and move to another country or do this as a job or become a dancer again and do that. I'm just really loving knitting and making books and videos. And there's not a big goal or dream of mine that departs a lot from what I'm doing right now, because I love it so much. And I've spent so many years nurturing it and growing it to a place where I feel like I'm not always fighting and pushing and stressing every single day to get things to happen. I'm a bit more planful these days, which if I told myself 12 years ago that you're a bit more planned out and you're quite organized now and you're a dad of dogs, I'd be like, what? I mean, how can you do that when you're traveling all over the place and going to knitting festivals and stuff? But I'm definitely in a grounded place now and feeling, yeah, more sustainable about what I'm making and what I'm sharing, and really excited about the teaching aspect of what I'm doing this year.
Have you ever had a disappointing moment? Have you ever designed something and it wasn't received great, or you were criticized for something that you've done? Like, is there ever a bad day in Stephen West's life?
Yeah, like there's sometimes like when I'm designing things and it's just really not working out, or yeah, either like the yarn is just not working with the pattern or the design idea. I like get to the end of it and then I just realize, oh, this sweater is like impossible to size easily into all these other sizes. So there are those moments and days where I just feel like, oh my gosh, I wasted 2 weeks making this thing. But I just have learned, because I've done that so many times, making these mistakes or making these prototypes that don't result in designs. So instead of putting a pressure on myself where everything has to be for a design reason or, you know, has to be a product or something like that, that's just, I've had so many of these failures and mistakes, and I just know that I keep reusing and recycling ideas that, okay, that was a couple week swatch that I made and I learned a lot. So let me simplify things and maybe make a shawl version of that idea and just not put pressure on myself that I wasted that 2 weeks, but just thanking myself for spending 2 weeks on knitting a swatch.
Well, I mean, like I had this one moment when I was doing something and I made the stupidest mistake, basically. Yeah. I was concentrating on learning new technique. Like I was knitting brioche in the round, which I never tried before. And I was so concentrating on that I like made some ridiculous mistake, like which was like super simple. And I had to like scratch the whole thing. Like I knitted the whole day and then I had to frog it. And I was talking to a friend of mine and I was like, oh my God, like I knitted the whole day and then I had to just frog it and start again. And he said, well, you know, it sounds to me like you knitted the whole day. It's a good day, you know?
Yeah.
So it's all about how you look at it.
It's it's just a change of perspective. Like if I was knitting for a couple weeks on a project knowing that it wouldn't work out, I would not be working on that project. But it's for, you're doing it for what you think it's going to become. But when that expectation is not met, what I do is I take all of these abandoned works in progress and I crochet them together on this like column I have in my studio. And I turn all of these accidents and mistakes and swatches into this like collage work of art. And now I secretly kind of love swatching a little bit. I'm an anti-swatcher. I don't like swatching, but I kind of love swatching now because I can sew it into cute dog sweaters and make art out of it. So I try not to think of it as wasted time or a wasted piece. It can always be shifted. The perspective can always be shifted and made into something beautiful in your life.
You didn't have to worry about where the next paycheck comes from, like, and how to make a living. Can you, like, is there some sort of idea in your head of like what you would have done, like an artistic sort of way with the knitting? Like, is there some fantasy of like, if I didn't have to worry about the next pattern and the next pattern, I would love to work on that?
I wasn't teaching or doing patterns. I love the idea of just like retreating to some like Nordic island, somewhere where it's really cold and like a cabin with my dogs, where I'd just be making just creative things that didn't have to be a pattern, but just, I would love to make some massive like art installation that wasn't like a wearable thing, but that was just exploring fascinations of texture and color and form, and yeah, making a structural installation. Like,
well, are you concerned when you design, like, right, about the fact that it has to be wearable? Like, do you ever approach knitting just as art, or do you have like a concrete person in mind when you come up with the design?
I try to go a little bit back and forth. Most of the time I'm working on a shawl or a design, knowing that I want it to be a pattern because it goes with this yarn. And then especially if I'm like collaborating with someone that dyed it, I don't want to be like, okay, we're going to do a shawl this summer, but I got inspired, so I made my dog a bunch of sweaters and dog toys instead. And like, that's not what we're going to do. But I try to give myself like a few days a month where I'm just knitting on something that's not pattern related. And one of them I have with me is this like big jacket that was, I think I made this before the shawl, this like jigsaw puzzle, this modular design. And I just made all these shapes and attached them together. And it's this like giant cardigan jacket thing with a scarf attached to it. And I don't think I'm ever going to turn it into a pattern because I don't know what I did. But I give myself, the time to make these kind of things just for the love of color and using up my stash, just to relax and not have to think about doing math or writing things in sizes or making it error-free. It's just all about knitting and making it up as I go. But then when I finish this, it gives me other ideas to, maybe I'll try to channel that spirit into a shawl or a pattern that other people could feel that same improvisational feeling and feel confidence in their color choices and give them a pattern for that. But in my version, I try to have that time and space to knit without an end result.
Well, if somebody tells you, I like it on you, but that's not something I can wear, I can see myself knit, because like you use so many colors and you use so many techniques, like how do you, and I don't think you need to sell yourself, but how do you sell yourself? How do you explain to people that they can do it regardless of their taste, basically?
Yeah, well, usually I'll like send them a photo of like a solid version, or say if it's something that just came out, then I'll just let them know, well, just wait a month. And, if you're interested or curious by it, just wait a month till you see other people make it in some other colors. And then someone will make a version better than mine. And then they'll love the beautiful gray version or the beautiful purple green multicolor version that I didn't do. So yeah, when you see one version, you're like, oh yeah, I couldn't wear that, that's not my style. But sometimes you just got to wait until the right one is made by another knitter, or I point them to another pattern that's more solid or a different shape. And I don't believe that every single shawl should be for every single person. That would just be so boring.
So when you design, like, do you have a target audience in mind? Like, do you know your audience? Do you think about them and what they like and what they don't?
Yeah, I've got a couple kind of people that I design for. Oh, my dogs are like going at it. Oh, come here. I think Brioche is jealous of Little Stitch's sweater. There's a couple people I design for, and one of them I think of as like the diehard West knitter who's like knit 50 shawls and has knit everything. So I design things that have like different types of techniques, or I mix kind of elements that I've designed with before and mash them up in a different way. So they have that experience of like, ooh, this is weird. This is going somewhere different that I haven't knit before. And then I have another perspective of like a kind of a Westknits knitter that doesn't want all the bells and whistles, and doesn't want a multicolored, technicolored jacket or crazy shawl, but still wants to feel confidence and learn skills. And if they don't knit with bright colors, then they're the type of knitter I'll design like a 2-color shawl for. and I'll show like a neutral version and a color pop version and try to drag them over to the bright side. So
Well,
I have kind of two, like a simpler knitter I knit for, and then a more maximal knitter that I design for.
do you find it difficult to say no to people, or to choose like what's for you and what's not for you, what's right for you, what's not right for you? Like, or do you approach life as like say yes to everything and see what's going to happen?
Yeah, I try to live like say yes, don't stress. But I've also learned that when you say yes to everything and overcommit yourself, that pulls you away from the other things you've committed yourself to. So yeah, these last couple years, I've like done more of my own video projects and tried to nurture more of the yarn dyers and relationships that we've been working with in the shop to help them grow more. Because then when you try to do like 100 little things, I feel like I'm doing nothing. But when I pick like 5 main things I want to do this year, then I can really feed my full energy into those and feel a bit less guilty about, yeah, when I have to say no to this or no to that and feel like, oh man, I'm saying no to these things, like I'm not doing anything. But by saying no to something, I'm saying yes to this other meaningful thing that I've committed to. And yeah, I think that's definitely been a process these last few years of not feeling let down, of like, oh my gosh, I'm not doing anything, or I'm doing everything, but really not giving my full energy and time to things. So it took me a long time to kind of learn that, and I'm still shifting and learning, but I'm feeling better about the things that I am doing. I'm giving more passion and more of myself into them. And yeah.
Well, when you told me at the beginning that like you sort of like learning yourself all these new techniques and what have you, like with all these projects, do you ever have hesitation about teaching? Like, what do I know? Like, I'm not really a technical expert. Like, do you ever have this imposter syndrome of how to teach people?
Yeah, sometimes a little bit of that voice creeps in, and then I try to slap it away because that's not very helpful. I think it's helpful to have that critical voice if you're really trying to teach like intarsia lace Estonian techniques. And like, I've never been to Estonia or knit any lace, but if I just like do a couple swatches and then try to teach it, I'm not going to do that. So most of the things I teach, I practice them a lot, but I also don't over practice things and believe in you have to perfect something and you've got to master it until you can teach it and share it. I've always been the type of person that is more kind of simple and genuine about the things that I love and want to share. And then I teach them in my own way. And I think if it comes from that, yeah, genuine, passionate place, it doesn't matter if it has to meet this technical scale on, you know, who knows, whoever made that standard or whatever. So yeah, I don't think you have to be an expert in everything to share that with others.
You recently offered a class on shawl construction.
Yeah.
And I was actually like very excited to see that, because it's sort of allows anybody and everybody to dabble in designing, right? Because you can, like, if you understand the basics of shawl construction, you can add your colors, so you can add some lace elements or something, some design elements, and suddenly you are a designer. Do you feel everybody can be a designer?
If you want to, like if you're interested in doing it, I feel like the kind of halting point where some people like, okay, can everyone be a designer? Well, they have to, you know, do a certain amount of techniques or knit a certain number. Like, I don't believe in all of that. Like, if you want to make something, you know, design is just, I just cancel out the word design and replace it with the word variation. And if you want to present a confident, I mean, it doesn't even have to be confident. It'd be great if it was, but but if you want to present your own variation on something, and if it comes from, yeah, this curiosity, this place of curiosity, I think that's amazing, and anybody can do that. And that's why I made this workshop, the top-down shawl design workshop, where I share like a triangle formula and a semicircle formula. I basically like break down these really simple formulas to knit simple shapes, and I show people how to plug in different stitch patterns and how to modify those shapes. And it's how I've approached design. And I've wanted to share these formulas to make it easier for people to design their own things, and kind of give people more permission to do that and not feel like you have to, I don't know, go to design school to be a knit designer. Like,
Well, what do you think makes a design a design? Because, like, I'm looking at some of the designs, right? Let's say you take Shetland lace design. So there is original motifs that you can plug like a Lego, basically. So you take a piece of lined paper and you know that you have that many rows and you know that you have those motifs that you want to put somewhere and you just see where they fit and boom, you have a design.
That's absolutely one way of designing for sure. And I think, yeah, that's amazing. And you can take like a shape that's been done and just like replace it with a different stitch pattern. And that can totally be a different design. I personally really love designs where you look at it and it kind of presents a new perspective where it's not like, oh, I've seen that, but that's just a different stitch pattern, or okay, that's the same shape, but it's a striped instead of a solid. Like I like when things kind of make you go, oh, I didn't think of using like those Estonian braids with that lace pattern. And then that construction with, yeah, I like when things kind of make you go, ooh, how is that done?
Well, are there designers that you in awe of, like that you think like, oh, I want to be them when I grow up?
Well, I really like Olga's 3D stuff. I think what she presents is so like well thought out and like so intuitive as well. She really takes an idea and really cleanly presents it. And it's not like mixed up with all these other scattered ideas, which is something I do a lot of times in my like collage texture shawls. And I really love Denise Byron. She's in Oakland, California, and she designs just really beautiful, elegant knitwear. And it's more on the simple side, knits and purls with really nice shaping, but it's not overdone or overcomplicated with color and tricks and bells and whistles. I really admire her because everything she does is so intentional and really thought out and really clean. And you might not see every single one of her designs and go, that's crazy. Whoa, I've never thought about doing that. Or you put that with that. It's like really inviting. And it's really, yeah, intentional is the word I described Denise Byron. And I admire that quality. And it just, yeah, represents to me that design doesn't have to be one type of thing or one style or even one kind of process, that there's all kinds of way to think about it. And it's different for each person and where their skill set is at or who they're wanting to communicate with. So I think there's room for everybody.
What's your relationship with social media?
I love it because I'm addicted to color and I love scrolling through all the hashtags. And yeah, like I said earlier, seeing things made in different colors, like the Mr Anita Longs, seeing all the same shawl done in different colors. I just love, yeah, the inspiration of scrolling through. So yeah, I love posting and sharing photos on it. And I'm especially excited to share more videos on it. I'm just addicted to making all these technique videos. So you'll be seeing more of that on social media this year.
Well, in the summer of last year, hold on one second, I just want to demonstrate. You've done a lot of calling with the skein of yarn.
Yeah. They might need to come back this year. We'll see.
Do you take yourself seriously? Like, were you concerned that people gonna think, "Oh, here goes Stephen being silly again"? Like, how do you come up with those ideas to grab a skein of yarn and pretend you're calling someone?
That was a couple years ago with the Slip Stravaganza MCAL. I like made up these characters and they called me on the yarn phone, and then I edited myself talking and responding to them. That I just decided on the day because I was so hyped up about announcing the mystery knit along, and I started getting all these questions and comments on social media of how much yarn am I going to need? What's the needle size? What's the gauge? Is there going to be brioche in this year's shawl? Like, I was like feeling so overwhelmed with like, oh my gosh, are people going to understand all the requirements this year and going to want to participate? So I just made it like a comedy bit to communicate some information, but just in a really kind of theatrical character way. But yeah, it just was spontaneous, and those are the funnest things when you don't plan them out. You just have fun and just make some fun video. And that was really fun to see people react to that.
You know what my favorite video of yours on YouTube is when you explain how to properly wear a shawl. Because to me, this is like people, I mean, I need a lot of shawls, and this is like the most common question I get, like, but where do you wear it? How would you wear it? And I'm like, You just put it on and you wear it. And I feel like,
Yeah, but for some of us, it's that simple as, yeah, you just like wear a shawl. Like there's no right way. But for others, if it's a different shape, it's really like, yeah, what did I just make? Like, how do I wear this? So yeah, I made this video. You can look it up on YouTube, how to wear a shawl. And it's a little bit educational, but it's mostly just fun. But that's how I think about making things and wearing things, is not like one right, proper way. But I think of everything I make, the key word of it is play. And if you have a playfulness in what you make and how you make your color choices and how you style it and wear it, then I think you're going to just be easier on yourself and have more fun. And those mistakes might not be so life-ending doom when you drop a stitch, or yeah, you just have more playfulness with things and everything is more fun.
do you ever go outside just in like jeans and t-shirt?
Yeah, I was actually wore jeans the other day, and the girls in the studio where I'm working, they're like, you look like you're in drag. I'm like, I know. It's like I don't fit into my pants anymore. Go easy on me. The jeans are all that fit me. These stretchy jeans are all that fit me right now. So yeah, I was wearing jeans the other day. They were gray too, not even a color. And people were like, you look like a normal dude. I'm like, I'm sorry, I'll go put on a neon sweater and back to Westknits.
But when you get up in the morning and you decide what you're gonna wear,
Yeah.
like, do you feel like you have an image to maintain and that you have to think about, like, when you buy clothes or when you choose what you're gonna wear, is it like almost like a persona of Stephen West?
No, not these last few years, especially. I feel like I used to think about that way like 5 and 6 years ago, also in a fun, playful way, but was just more like specific and exaggerated. And that came from like a genuine, like, curiosity. That was me, and this is what I'm showing. But I definitely just feel like less about where I'm going and what people are looking at me type of thing. And things are definitely a lot more for myself these last couple years, and it feels a little more subdued. And you might see that in some designs. Sometimes there'll be a gray shawl or a one color sweater. Crazy, I know, you can knit with one color, but I just say don't worry, because I have that other side of my personality that's always going to come out and surprise you. That's the multicolored Westknits neon.
Like, I remember seeing your PR when it came out, and it was like this 50 Shades of Grey kind of thing. And, and I actually did complete opposite version of it. I went in fingering weight, and I have a friend who lives on Cranberry Bog, and I did all the colors of Cranberry Bog throughout the seasons. So it was like the winter, like the white with cranberries, and the harvested cranberries, and the fall cranberries with like some yellow, and it was like the most colorful shawl I probably knitted. So I love that about your designs, because the versatility of it sort of gives you this like free ray of doing whatever you feel like doing.
Yeah, that's where one reason I have done things intentionally more subdued and neutral. Because yeah, when I only did bright things several years ago, then I got the response of, oh, I can't wear that, or oh, I don't like those colors. So, but then I wanted to counterbalance that with these other things, just kind of to just freak people out a little, or make them second guess, like, what is the style? Or oh, like, is that still Westknits, or can I still make that? And like, can I get inspiration from that multicolor thing and make it solid? And that's the one reason I really like showing, yeah, one shawl in like a bright version and then like a solid neutral version sometimes, just to keep people on their toes. Never know what you're gonna get. And I'm a firm believer in like being a chameleon and like an inspiration sponge. And I think it would stress me out if like I was so firmly committed to this kind of color style for the rest of my life. I mean, that might just get boring. Maybe that's why I wear all the colors, so then I can, I love all the colors, so then you can never, yeah, get bored of those.
Do you have a favorite?
I love yellow. Yellow is one of my go-to, like gold especially, and like neon yellow, primary yellow. It's just a really happy color that's so strong that when you put it with other stuff, for me, it just becomes a neutral. So,
How about favorite design? Like, is there such thing?
yeah, I'd say, oh, that's so hard. Oh my gosh. Pinguono. Pinguono is my favorite design. It's a big jacket that's made to use your scraps and leftovers. And it was one of my favorite projects to make. And it's my favorite design because it's my favorite one to see other people make, because they personalize it so much. It
I
has
love
this
seeing when there's like some little like toddlers wearing
Mhm.
it, and then there is like, you know, mature people who like, you know, in their 70s who wear it, and I just like how it can adjust to any body shape and any size.
Especially seeing the little pinguino on little kids, that colorful jacket. Now when you see a big pinguino, to me it feels like an adult is wearing like a big version of like a little kid's play jacket. And I really love that spirit of that you're swaddled in your playful, youthful, energetic little self, but you're a grown up now knitting clothes for yourself. I just, yeah, love that kind of feeling.
Describe me like a good day for you, like when you at the end of the day you're tired and you're smiling, like what have you been doing?
After, when I'm feeling like really happy, it's usually after I've made some like videos, like been in my studio surrounded by colors and things that I love, working with people that I get inspiration from, collaborating and making videos and taking some photos that day, and then getting home to like a free evening where I can just hang out with my dogs and watch a TV show, knit on the couch, and not stressed about some crazy mystery knit along clue coming up the next day.
Well, but then on the flip side, what stresses you out? Like what would cause you lose sleep?
Cause me to stress out, like when something really goes wrong, like with like a book being printed that wasn't exactly how you wanted it to be printed. So yeah, we just printed a big new book, and there were like some behind the scenes scheduling and detail issues, and those things are really stressful when I'm doing a big project, and then you like multiply that times like 1,000 whatever books and customers, and yeah, it stresses me out disappointing people. And so I put, yeah, a lot of pressure on myself to make things, yeah, as polished as I can while still maintaining that Westknit spirit and not losing that. So that stresses me out, of like having something go really wrong and then disappointing everybody.
I mean,
Yeah,
do you think
it's
people
knitting.
would get disappointed, or do you feel like, I mean, my feeling is that you have such a solid fan base that you can't disappoint them, doesn't matter what you do at this
Yeah,
point.
and as long as you're honest with, if something did go really wrong and you're honest with people and you send an errata update or something like that, yeah, as long as you're communicative, it's all fine. But this is a little bit of a therapy session. That can happen. People are going to be fine. But I still am like, the world is falling apart drama. People are okay with it, but I am not. That's, yeah, that's
Are
just
you
me.
like always hard on yourself? Like, do you expect that like top level performance at all times?
Yeah, in varying degrees, like not top level, like in terms of design, not everything has to be, the most impressive looking. But even if I'm making something simple, I want it to, be done the right way, and yeah, not have all these errors. And yeah, so I, yeah, put a lot of pressure on myself to keep things up to a standard for sure. And maintaining so far, but the key to that is asking for help in collaboration. Can't do everything on your own. And I've learned that the hard way. When you do try to do everything on your own, it's just not realistic. So you really got to go easy on yourself and ask for help when you need it.
Well, my favorite time of the year is your birthday, because you always do birthday sales and you always sort of correspond that discount to the number of years you rotated around the sun. Do you think when you're 100, it's going to be free?
I hope so. Yes. If anybody's watching this like 70 or 67 years from now, yeah, everything is going to be free when I turn 100 years old. That will be amazing. I can't wait.
Well, maybe, I hope maybe I'll stay with you on that and get to enjoy free patterns from Stephen West.
Yeah.
I know
We'll
you
do like
said you're not the planner, but like what's in the works? Can you share a little secret information of what's in the works?
Yes, let me get this little precious angel. So Stitch is wearing this little swatch. Sorry, Stitch, you're my little advertisement workshop. So she's wearing this little modular swatch that's going to be the topic of one of my next workshops. So that's coming out next month. But at westknits.com, I've been making all these workshops about color play, shawl design. There's a new brioche stitch workshop. And all of them are like over 3 hours of video tutorials and really up close. You're seeing me knit and you're getting a lot of design inspiration. So the next one is going to be all about modular knitting. And that one I really love because those are some of my favorite designs where you're knitting a piece and picking up stitches and attaching it together. So it's really this idea that you can make any type of shape with knitting, and it gets more into these free form construction ideas. So I'm excited about that workshop. And there's going to be definitely another mystery shawl in October, Mystery Knit Along month this fall.
Can't wait to see that one. And
it's gonna be the best one ever. I hope.
Guys, stay tuned. It's going to be the best one ever.
Oh, yes, it will be.
Well, I want to thank you for being my guest today. I really, really, really enjoyed it. And for all of you who've been watching my channel from the beginning, you know that conversation about Stephen pop up like almost in every single interview I do somehow. And I'm just so happy that you agreed to be my guest, the guest of my channel today.
Thank you. It was so nice of you to have me. And I really appreciate all your questions and getting to share a little bit more about myself that people don't always get to see behind the scenes and details and what I'm working on. So thanks for letting me do that.
Well, is there like one thing that people don't realize about you that you can share with us? The secret information.
Secret information. I think maybe a crazy thing this year is I've been swatching a lot more. That's like a knitting thing. And I always tell people, I probably said this before, maybe people just don't believe it, but I've always said like I'm an introvert, and a lot of knitters are, but I get the most inspiration and energy from like being alone with my dogs in the middle of nowhere. That's like my happy place. So, but when I get to share it, I get to share that performative extroverted side. But yeah, most people don't know that I'm like I'm like one of the quietest people at our little office studio workplace. Or like Steven's over there filming videos. He's been there all day. Okay, you can tell him to come say hi. Yeah, I'm always away doing my thing, getting busy, thinking of the next knit along.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Thank you for sharing your life with me for this hour and being my guest.
Yeah, we'll see you online with more sweaters.
Thank you, Stitches, for being a guest.
Bye. Oh, she's sneezing.
Bye.
Love to see her.
Thank you, Stephen. Bye.
See you later. Bye.